My name is Stuart Campbell. I'm an attorney at a nonprofit. I represent tenants in eviction court for free here in Dallas County. And I listen to Progress Texas because it is a beacon of light. I think progressives have a chance here. I think progressives need to focus on economic struggles and the differences between the billionaire class and the working class. As long as we do that, both as Democrats and progressives, we will win this state, we will win this country. I like Progress Texas because they speak truth to power, first and foremost, and they are not afraid to hold both Republicans and Democrats accountable.
It's Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Unintended or unexpected consequences all over the news lately, as you've noticed. We start this morning with a lawsuit that may have flown under your radar and is primed to create a domino effect of disrupted progress. The case Texas versus McHenry, about to be heard by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, challenges the state of Texas's requirement to enforce the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, or PWFA, which when passed 2 years ago created an affirmative right to reasonable workplace accommodations for pregnant workers, postpartum workers, and workers with pregnancy-related conditions. A huge win for maternal health, women's labor force participation, and the fight against poverty. Well, last year, U.S. District Judge James Hendricks of the Northern District of Texas blocked that new law. As Iname Chedier at Slate says, quote, in an astonishing jump in legal logic that left constitutional scholars aghast, holding that the PWFA had been enacted unconstitutionally because Congress had allowed members to use proxy voting to establish a quorum, violating the U.S. Constitution's quorum clause. This blasts apart an obviously justified civil protection on a technicality and also makes this case about much, much more than this one law. If upheld by the Fifth Circuit, this ruling would undermine a wide range of laws passed alongside the PWFA, including laws that provide educational assistance, protections against debt collection, and suicide prevention resources for veterans. Even further, the upholding of this decision would also support the idea that the U.S. Congress lacks the authority to set its own rules about procedure to begin with. Super complicated for sure. See the show notes. Potential cascading consequences with this Texas measles outbreak as well. Doctors as far north as Chicago have begun watching closely. Marissa Sulik at CBS News says that city has had its own struggles with measles outbreaks just last year as the disease tore through a Chicago migrant shelter. Dr. Satina Weed, a family physician at Northwestern Medicine in Chicago, points to the close-knit nature of the Gaines County, Texas population, which combined poorly with a tendency towards vaccine skepticism to create a perfect launchpad for this outbreak. To be clear, the unvaccinated are most at risk here, but as we mentioned yesterday, there's growing worry for folks who got their shots before 1989. Michelle Homer at KHOU-TV in Houston says the CDC is recommending anyone vaccinated prior to 1968 to get at least one dose of the modern MMR shot, which covers measles, mumps, and rubella. And again, if you're not sure, getting that shot as a precaution carries no risk for most people. Of course, have a conversation with your doctor about it. Vincent Mortorano at CBS Austin says Austin public health officials are imploring parents who have allowed online anti-vax misinformation to delay having their kids vaccinated to reconsider that highly risky call. Dr. Desmar Walks, Austin Travis County Medical Director, says, quote, we know that vaccines work. We know they're safe. Now's the time to go get vaccinated, unquote, adding that while no cases have yet been identified in Austin, it's likely just a matter of time. That's the case for all of us. We do know that one person from Gaines County diagnosed with a measles infection spent a lot of time around a lot of people in San Marcos, New Braunfels, and San Antonio over Valentine's weekend. See yesterday's Daily Dispatch, one click back in this feed for more details on that, which leads us to examine the incubation process of the measles virus. Healthcare experts have concluded that this person was likely contagious during that visit, which happened between February 14th and 16th. Measles symptoms tend to appear 10 to 14 days after exposure, which would be yesterday through March 2nd. In this particular case, anyone who was exposed and contracted the virus, by the way, right now are very likely contagious themselves. One more uncomfortable fact about measles I've learned today is that an infection can leave behind what's known as immune amnesia. An article from the American Society for Microbiology you'll find in the show notes this morning says, quote, one of the most unique and most dangerous features of measles is its ability to reset the immune systems of infected patients. The measles virus actually replaces the old memory cells of its host with new measles-specific cells. As a result, the patient emerges with a strong immunity to measles and an increased vulnerability to all other pathogens, unquote. All the more reason to vaccinate your kids young rather than risk leaving them vulnerable later in life. Governor Greg Abbott is saying the quiet part out loud again. Lucio Vasquez at Texas Public Radio says the governor announced on Twitter yesterday, quote, Colony Ridge is being targeted today, unquote. This is that housing development near Houston that's been demonized as a supposed hotbed for criminal activity among undocumented migrants throughout Texas Republicans' xenophobic scare campaign ongoing for years now. Federal ICE officials did indeed sweep through Colony Ridge yesterday. Several arrests were made, no firm details yet. Local law enforcement has continued to refute the idea that Colony Ridge suffers from any higher degree of crime than any similar community. But the targeting, as Governor Abbott puts it, continues. I'd be lying if I said I weren't entertained by the clash of conservatives developing between Houston area Congressman Dan Crenshaw and cackling right-wing talking head Tucker Carlson. Brian Niemans at the New York Daily News says Crenshaw was wrapping up an interview with GB News of London when he was asked if he'd ever met Tucker Carlson. Likely not realizing he was still on camera, Crenshaw called Carlson the worst person and said, quote, if I ever meet him, I'll effing kill him, unquote. Crenshaw's never been super shy about his disdain for Carlson, calling him in the past a click chaser and a cowardly know-nothing elitist. Carlson has taken to referring to Crenshaw as Eye Patch McCain. Crenshaw, as you may know, lost his right eye in an incident with an improvised explosive device during his third deployment in Afghanistan in 2012. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has piped up in this spat backing Tucker Carlson, if you're still trying to pick a side here. These two disagree most strongly about the war in Ukraine, Carlson being a known Putin shill. He's invited Crenshaw to appear on his show. I guess he still has a show tomorrow. We shall see. And as we wind down here, let's talk about Dairy Queen. Long heavily marketed in association with Texas for as long as I can remember, if I find myself at a Dairy Queen, there's a 99.9% chance I'm in a little bitty small town on a road trip. And I almost always note that Dairy Queen is frequently the only thing resembling an actual restaurant in sight for those folks. Well, a lot of those little bitty towns are losing even that luxury. 25 DQ locations all over Texas in towns including Longview and Canadian and Tomball and Idalou and Franklin and Olton, owned by franchisee Project Lone Star, have been forced to close after a legal battle with the parent American Dairy Queen Corporation, which has terminated Project Lone Star's franchise rights for failing to modernize those restaurants. Actually, a pretty complicated legal drama if you care to catch up, and the link from KETK-TV in Tyler you'll find in our show notes this morning. 6 East Texas DQs are no more. Project Lone Star's website says they own and run 41 Dairy Queens across Texas, which we guess would leave 16 still open, but the website's store locator map has been disabled. February is Black History Month, and Progress Texas advocacy associate Tatum Owens has put together a great essay on this year's celebration, including an extensive list of Black History Month events taking place across the state. See also in the show notes a new listing of Black-owned businesses to support from the Austin American-Statesman, ranging across Texas from Houston to Fort Worth to Corpus Christi to El Paso and more. Our funding at Progress Texas is rarely sufficient for us to plan much more than a quarter or two ahead, but the conservative disinformation machine we oppose has no such obstacle. They're funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups. Our regular everyday listeners form a key component of our funding here at Progress Texas. If that's you, we could use your help as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Leon Baez, Lanny DeGuire, and Edith Frost, all of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all very much. For our Austin listeners in particular, but really to all of you, the Amplify Austin Day season is officially underway. This year's early giving period has started. Look up Progress Texas at amplifyatx.org or see the direct link in our show notes. The official I Live Here, I Give Here Amplify Austin Day begins on the evening of March 6th and continues through the evening of March 7th. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a terrific day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.